Hey Crashers, and welcome to a very special video. Today, what I figured I'd do is tell you guys a bit about my origins. How I got into gaming and how I got into doing YouTube and Twitch and, the Console Crashers brand and everything like that. Some of you have been along for the ride, so you know exactly how a lot of this goes. But I'm sure there's a lot of new viewers out there, as well as, some old viewers that don't have the full story. So I figured, why not? I'd jump into this. My buddy Maddox actually recently did a video detailing his entire history of how he got into Twitch and gaming and all that stuff. And I'll make sure to put a link to that down below. You guys can go check that out. Fantastic video from a fantastic streamer. Make sure you guys go check out all of his stuff. Again, links down below. So let's just jump right on into it. Now, my earliest memory with gaming would probably be all the way back when I was probably no older than 3 or 4 years old. I remember having this strange Atari trackball controller that I don't even know if we ever used because I don't remember owning an Atari. I just remember goofing around with the stupid little trackball. Not too long after that, we got ourselves an NES with Excitebike, Super Mario, and I want to say Zelda 2 because I don't remember playing the original Zelda when I was super young, unless there was a few times where I can kind of picture myself playing it when I was visiting my mom, out on the other side of town. I remember her having an NES, but this was years later. I remember playing it, but nonetheless, I got my start on the NES. I believe it was a gift from my cousin. He had gotten himself the SNES or something, and he gave us the old system like it goes in most families. I remember playing the crap out of that, especially Excitebike. But yeah, and then essentially the years rolled on. The SNES eventually came and went. I don't even remember how I got my hands on that. I just remember playing a crap ton of A Link to the Past. And, of course, Super Mario World, that was a big one. A buddy of mine up the street had Mario Paint, and I remember adoring that game, but I never actually owned it myself. At least not way back then. It would be years and years before I got my hands on that. But I do remember playing a crap ton of it. Donkey Kong Country, stuff like that. For the most part, I remember hanging out with my buddy Sean. We would get together all the time, and we'd love to play games that had any type of simulation to it. We would adore games essentially like Grand Theft Auto 3 or The Sims, stuff like that. Things where you could just kind of make up your own stories, live your own lives, and just essentially goof around in these big open worlds. But unfortunately, me and him never really got a chance to play a lot of games that were really like that. So instead, we made up a bunch of our own storylines, combining games. We'd play Rush on the N64, and then when we wanted to do on-foot sections, we would switch off to GoldenEye. And just random crap like that. So growing up, my biggest influences in games was probably Zelda. I remember just every console generation I had a Zelda game, and I remember playing them non-stop with my dad. So, every night after school we'd play a little bit of Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, and we would get a little bit further, and I remember those games taking us probably about 7 to 10 months to get through. And it's funny because nowadays I can go through Ocarina of Time in less than a weekend. And it's just crazy thinking about it, really. Did that for quite a while. Then I remember the GameCube coming out, and I remember being so excited for that. And that was the first Christmas where I already knew what I was getting before I got it, because I remember going out and actually buying it on release day with Luigi's Mansion and Super Smash Bros. And having that set up under the tree so that come Christmas Day I could finally play it. And I tell you, all the time waiting was freaking killer. But nonetheless, I remember throughout my childhood, as I mentioned Zelda already, but I know that Final Fantasy was a big one for me too. I loved Final Fantasy 7, all that stuff. I remember all throughout my childhood though, I just kind of played games to play games. That was it. I just enjoyed them. I loved, as I said, the simulation aspect. I loved being able to just goof around and make up my own stories and stuff like that. It wasn't until much later that I actually started collecting. I think I was probably about 15 or 16. I had just gotten my first job pushing carts at a supermarket, and got in my first paycheck, and I remember I was super ecstatic. I was so happy, and the first thing I did was I bought myself another memory card for the PS2 because I was out, and then I went and grabbed myself a copy of Sly 2, which was one of my favorite PS2 games, and I remember playing the crap out of that. And I thought it was like the coolest thing, being able to buy my own games. But it still didn't clue in that like I could be collecting games. I could have all those games that I wanted, like from way back when, that I never got growing up. One of the things that my parents always tried to teach me was when you want something new, you have to get rid of something old. So like when I would get a PS2, I had to get rid of my PS1. When I wanted a GameCube, I had to get rid of my N64, which, you know, later in life really made backwards compatibility a great thing because you didn't have to worry about it anymore. But nonetheless, all of these things that I had growing up, like Gold Cart version, boxed, of Ocarina of Time, I had to get rid of that. All my old PS1 games, I had to get rid of those. It was just like a rule, you know, you had to learn that you couldn't have everything. And then, I think we were having this long drive home one day from like way out somewhere, I can't even remember. And my dad and I were talking about this N64 game that I had played countless times, rented more times than it would have like cost to just buy it. And that was Mystical Ninja, one of my all-time favorite N64 games. And I started thinking to myself, man, it'd be really cool to still have that game, to be able to sit down and play it. And then for some reason, just like an epiphany, it just like clicked, and I was like, holy shit, I make my own money, I could go out and get it. We were lucky enough that around here we had Gamezilla, The Parlor, a bunch of other places that kind of like prided themselves on selling retro games. The only downside is 9 times out of 10 they knew exactly what it was worth. So I ended up going up there looking for an N64. I found one relatively cheap. I think it was like $20-30. Got myself an N64, and then I struggled for a little while finding Mystical Ninja and Goemon's Great Adventure, but I did end up finding them, and I bought them and I played them. I thought, man, this is like the coolest thing. So I started searching for a bunch of these old games that I really wanted. One that comes to mind is Urgies on the PS1. I just remembered there was a fighting game with Cloud in it, and I wanted it more than anything. I was like, fuck, I need to get myself this game. And I searched for that game for a long time. Mega Man Legends is another one, and like, there's a list. I could go on about all these games that I just remembered from my past that I really wanted. So after collecting for like a little bit, not going too serious into it, just more or less doing it for fun, I started checking out these YouTube videos from a guy named Pete Dorr. Some of you probably remember him. Some of you probably still watch him. He still does YouTube videos and Twitch streams and all this stuff. Great guy. And I remember watching his game room collection and thinking to myself, holy crap, that is a collection. Like, that is crazy. And I wanted to do videos like that too. So I started off with one small little video called PS1 Collection. And I showcased all the PS1 games that I had collected up to that point. And I actually thought it was really impressive, because when I started recollecting for PS1, the only two games that I owned was Final Fantasy VII and Driver 2, and that was it. And I think that video had something like, I don't know, like 30, 40 games in it, and I thought that was actually like pretty damn good. So I posted that video. I don't even remember the response. It wasn't really anything huge, maybe like a few people here and there. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed doing it. And then we started just doing other videos, you know, stuff that we had other ideas for. So we started filming a Resident Evil 5 demo Let's Play. Myself and my buddy Jeremy, we went through that, and that was a lot of fun. All these videos are like still up. Actually, the PS1 video is not, sorry, but the Resident Evil 5 demo is. And I remember us going through that, and that was a lot of fun. And then we just started kind of like making random videos for the sake of making it. And then I remember one day I got super excited. Friggin' Pete Dorr ended up going and checking out one of my videos. And he ended up giving me a shout out in one of his. And I remember, like, overnight, just like a flood of subscribers and viewers and all this stuff. And then the same kind of thing happened with Happy Console Gamer, another fantastic YouTuber you guys should definitely check out. I remember just like one day he had mentioned something, some kind of shout out, and again, just more people. And before you knew it, I was sitting at like 2,000, 3,000 subscribers, somewhere in that range. And I was having the time of my life doing it. I enjoyed doing YouTube more than anything. I thought it was so much fun. I met so many cool people. My buddy Nigel, you know, even recently Maddox, and a whole host of other people. I couldn't mention everybody. I wish I could, but I can't. I don't have a list in front of me. It's just like countless names. But yeah, I met all kinds of great people. And it was a blast. And I had a lot of stuff going on, of course, in my day-to-day life. Still working, still going to school. I was holding down, yeah, like 2 jobs, going to school at the same time, you know, because collecting is an expensive habit. But eventually what ended up happening was I moved out of my parents' place when I was about like 17, 18, and I got myself a place, and all my time was kind of focused on just trying to make that work, because I had moved in with the girlfriend, Steph, and we're still together today, so it's been like 10 years, hard to believe, but 10 years in this place. And for a while I just got really, really busy, and I kind of like had to lay off the videos for a while. And it made things a little difficult to be able to keep up with YouTube, and I kind of lost a lot of my following. I lost a lot of viewers and all that stuff, you know, rightfully so. And I spent a lot of time jumping back and forth on being able to make consistent videos and not making them, and being happy with them and not being happy with them. And it was just like this endless loop of just constantly debating with myself as to whether I had time to make videos, if I wanted to make videos, and if I was satisfied with them when they were finally done. So it was a lot of jumping back and forth, and eventually I can't even remember how it all started, but a friend of mine who had helped out a long time ago doing videos, Amanda the Jedi, she used to go by Hybrid Phoenix, I believe. And I helped her do a few videos like a long time ago, and she had started doing some stuff for YouTube and Twitch, and things were actually like really, really working out for her, and it kind of brought back some nostalgic feelings of wanting to do this again. And my only problem with the way I had my channel set up last time was that it was kind of like under my name. It was Lockdown, which was just my like PlayStation username, and it felt like it was a very single thing. Like I had to do everything alone because it was just my name and people just expected to see me. And I had this idea of like, well, what if we had like a group that posted videos together? And even though that still hasn't like fully come to realization, I thought having a brand, having a name would be really, really cool. And it wasn't the first time I had thought about it, because I did like Disposable Thumbs and I did like that, and I wanted to make like a network of channels. And anyways, different ideas had come and gone. There was D-Pad Gaming that I had started with Sarinthra, as I said, Disposable Thumbs, which was Steph and the Kryptonian Collector, and like a few other things. And I felt like I had to come up with something that was a bit different, a bit of my own idea. So I actually got inspired by, I think it's Game Chasers. I thought that was such a cool name, you know, people that go out and hunt for games type thing, and like I loved the concept. And anyways, so I was like, I wanted to play around with a name like that, and one day I came up with Console Crashers, and I was like, hey, I like that, that's really cool. So I asked a few other people what they thought. They said they liked it, so I was like, you know what, F it, we're gonna go with Console Crashers. So we went with that, and branded everything Console Crashers. And yeah, now the biggest struggle so far has been like just trying to keep up with you know, the schedule on YouTube when life can get so busy, and trying to make videos that I'm satisfied with. Like I like there to be a level of quality to each video, so I'm always like kind of particular, and sometimes they don't always turn out the way I want them to, but I just want to try to make sure that I still have content for you guys, so I dedicate some time to try and do that every week. But then, yeah, eventually after doing some YouTube videos and stuff like that, Twitch came along, and again, that was thanks to Amanda the Jedi. I saw she was doing some stuff, and she was doing really, really well for herself. And I started watching AGDQ, like a lot of Games Done Quick, speedrun, stuff like that. And that kind of got me into the whole idea of what streaming was like. I knew almost nothing about Twitch or YouTube or anything like that. So I started streaming on YouTube, more or less because all content was in one place. You know, we had all of our YouTube videos. You guys could just check out the streams afterwards. So we started streaming on YouTube with a very limited setup. And then eventually I ended up getting myself an Elgato HD60 and started streaming to Twitch. And trying to up the production quality of that, and I essentially like fell in love with that, and I met some really amazing people. I started watching Maddox on there. I found him doing some Dark Souls runs, and I loved his Rainbow Six runs. They were freaking fantastic, and yeah, just met like a bunch of really, really cool people through that too, and ever since I've been trying to do YouTube and Twitch. So for the most part, my story just kind of boils down to like, gaming was always a part of my life, like as far back as I can remember. I have my cousin to thank for that, and of course my dad. Beyond that, my buddy Sean was kind of the one that got me into like more open world games, stuff like Grand Theft Auto and anything that's like even simulation based, like The Sims. I owe my buddy Jeremy for getting me into Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, all those things. He was like the PlayStation guy growing up, so I really owe him for that. Beyond that, you know, my later years, I owe to YouTube, I owe to you guys, I owe everything that I enjoy and love to all my friends and family, you know, because like essentially suggestions come from everywhere, and that's the main reason why I start playing it in the first place. So yeah, so for the most part, that is my origin story onto how I got to be yeah, essentially the person that I am now. So, yeah, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say, you know, about your origin story, where you guys came from. What was the first game you played, or the first video you made, why you got into YouTube, or Twitch, or whatever it is you do, you know? So you can let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to see it. And if you got a video to post, too, I'd say leave it down below, but it's just going to automatically block it as spam. But you know what I mean. I'd love to see it. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, if there's any other questions you have, I'd love to do like a Q&A video at some point, so that'd be kind of cool. Maybe you guys can leave some questions down below as well, and we can try to answer that. So make sure to go check out Maddox's video down there as well, and we might have some more videos here. Maybe Steph, Josh, I don't know. If you guys want to see some Origins videos, let us know. You know, we'll try to accommodate. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Okay. So far, so good.
Do we want to go back to see if...
No, we do not want to go back. We never want to go back. We live in the rest of this dungeon for the rest of our lives. We will never go back. Okay.